everyone, this is HunterTube back with another custom spotlight video. And in this one, we will take a break from the world of the anime crossover engines and return back to standard Thomas customs. And as you can see by the 4 characters that we see right here, these are not the customs we will be looking at, but they are about these 4 characters right here in their specific push-along forms. So, with that out of the way, why don't we get these long-awaited customs into the frame. Today, we will be taking a look at the updated improved Gordon, updated improved Edward, CGI Push Along Winston, and CGI Push Along Doc. So yeah, we will be taking a closer look at all 4 of these customs. And another thing about all 4 of these is that each one of these actually has a backstory as to why I did them or why I did their updates. Yes, even the 2 that we already looked at have a backstory to them. So let's get started with that by looking at the 2 that we've looked at before, which are Gordon and Edward. So the backstory as to why I updated these 2 is because it was around the time when we got confirmation that the 2019 re-releases weren't actually going to get canceled and that they were actually getting released, and how they basically had the updated wheels on them. So it basically made me think of the advantage of, let me take my already improved CGI Gordon and Edward and give them the updated 2025 push-along wheels and the updated tenders as well. So I basically went out and bought 2 2026 re-release Edwards and 2 2026 re-release Gordons. One of them so I could keep both of them in a normal state, and the other so I could rip them apart and take their wheels and put them onto these customs. So with Gordon here, technically with the tenders, right? I didn't actually rip the tenders apart. I just gave them the tender, since the original tenders on these were from the original 2019 push along. So just like, let's just swap the tender with the new one. But other than that, since I gave these things the new wheels, I decided to also give them the side rods so that they matched the rest of the 80th models nicely. Doing the rods on Edward and Gordon was actually a bit of a tricky sort of challenge for me, because with Edward was the first one I did the rods on, and I used the rods from the 80th Percy. The rods actually split apart on Edward when I was doing him, so this part and this part are 2 separate pieces. And that's probably why this one sort of bends outward a bit compared to this one where it's a bit more flat. But yeah, I also kind of measured the open spaces where the rods would go with a white Sharpie paint pen, which is why Edward has a few white splotches underneath his chassis now and the rods. But yeah, the wheels on Edward also came from the 2026 Edward re-release, and the tender itself came straight up from that re-release, as you can tell with the new font, as I knew it would just be much simpler to just completely switch the tender than take apart a tender and switch the wheels. And I'm sure you also noticed that both of these guys still use the All Engines Go smaller wheels, and that is because there is no 80th character out there that has the smaller wheels in the 80th style done in blue. So Edward and Gordon are stuck with the All Engines Go smaller sized wheels, and honestly, I don't really mind that. But back to the cutting problems with the rods. With Gordon, I ended up cutting a bit too much out, so there's a bit of a gap, and so his rods are a little crooked on the inside there. And I ended up cutting a little bit too much right here with like the disc Dremel, and so his running board now has a bit of a cut in it on this side. And also I ended up cutting off the little peg that sits on the undercarriage piece, as I originally wanted to try and figure out a way to get the rod to sit in that hole so it sat more snug and nicely. But sadly I cut that pole completely off. But yeah, that was the little challenges with Edward and Gordon and their little backstories as to why I gave them updates. Because other than that, they're pretty much exactly the same to how they were when I originally did their spotlight. They've still got the exact same motorized faces. They've still got the exact same painted buffers on the front and the back. The only thing I did was give them new wheels, new tenders, and side rods. But yeah, that was Edward and Gordon. Now, let's move on to the ones you haven't seen yet. And the first one of the two we're going to look at is Winston. Now, Winston, you probably have seen already if you watched the latest remake that I did back in February, which was Happy Birthday, Sir. Now, there were two reasons I made that remake. One, which was so I could show off this Winston custom that I did. And two, so I could get a remake out on my birthday. Not a remake, but a video out on my birthday this year. Because fun fact, this Winston custom right here was finished around right when I got this Winston back in like November, when I got the 80th Thomas, that third duck push along, the All Engines Go troublesome truck, and yeah, 80th Thomas, Winston, the third duck, and the All Engines Go troublesome truck. Because this was the reason why I got that second Winston push along, was to make this custom right here. And it is basically just a slight modification of the All Engines Go push along Winston, with the only change being made to this thing is the face. And technically a bit of Sharpie on the nameplates. But the main difference is the face. The face on this Winston comes from the 2012 Take and Play Winston. And it fit literally perfectly over the square shape of the push along Winston. Originally, I bought a wooden railway Winston as like, I asked someone on the All Engines Go Discord to do measurements of the Winston faces to see what was around the similar size to the All Engines Go Winston face. And he said the wooden railway face was like more square. But it ended up being more rectangular and smaller than the All Engines Go face. So I asked for a dimension check of the Take and Play face against the push-on face, and it just so happened to be a perfect square, just like this face here. So I ended up buying a Take and Play Winston, and it just sat in the basement for a while until I got this Winston. And then, so I basically took apart the Winston, even took apart the rivet so I could get to the face. And then I glued the Take and Play face onto this Winston here. And as you can see, it curves a bit more than the actual body of Winston. So like the face sticks out a little bit. But honestly, I don't mind that, as it's just a face and it's just a little bit more of a curve. But honestly, the face fitting is all that really matters to me, because this face is absolutely perfect. But yeah, other than that, I did a little bit of gold Sharpie to his little nameplates there on both sides. And another thing, this gold tends to scratch off really easily, so I have to reapply this like every now and then. I had to reapply it a few times during the making of the Happy Birthday Sir remake. But other than those two things, everything on this Winston is exactly the same. The wheels are the same as this, as basically, I really didn't need to switch the wheels out with like the 80th gray wheels, considering Winston doesn't actually have train spoked wheels. He has like road wheels that are like made to work on rails. So I thought the wheels that he already had really fit the model perfectly. And the reason I didn't change Topham and kept the All Engines Go Topham is because Topham is needed to keep Winston held together with his screw. Because without Topham, this Winston would be in pieces. So yeah, that's why Topham is still his All Engines Go incarnation. And honestly, he doesn't look too out of place with this Winston. But yeah, that was a closer look at the CGI Push Along Winston. And now let's move on to the one you've all been waiting for. And that is Duck. So, Duck has the biggest backstory out of literally all four of these. And it all stems back to when I got my first All Engines Go Push Along Duck. So if you remember back when I got this duck, in that very specific video, I said that I would need to buy a second All Engines Go Push Along Duck to make a CGI duck custom. The whole reason I wanted to make the custom was because he had his lettering on his side, the GWR lettering. As if he didn't have his lettering, it really wouldn't work well for a custom. So for the longest time, I struggled to find a second duck. But I did get a face for this duck, and it wasn't this face. I will grab that model quickly. Around the early planning stages of making this duck, I bought a wooden railway duck from 2013 off of eBay, as I was originally going to use this face right here on this custom duck. But then all that plan changed when New York Toy Fair 2025 rolled around, and we got the reveal of this duck right here, the motorized 80th duck. So that led me to thinking, oh my gosh, this face is gonna be perfect. It led me to thinking it more when I saw like a side-by-side image of the 80th duck next to the Tommy duck, and the faces looked almost identical to sizing. And then I realized that things kind of went haywire when I realized I put the face on and it was slightly bigger than the Tommy duck face. So yeah, this face is kind of a little big on this model, but I made it work by using a little hand file, and I filed down the corners of both of Duck's little front things here. I don't know what they're called, but I filed them down to make them more angled so that the giant face could fit a bit more nicely. Because originally, there wasn't any green space up top here, and it was just like a giant fat face that stuck out really far. I had to flatten this face so much to get it to sort of fit snugly flat. But yeah, I do agree that this face does look a little big. This face here, this wooden face, is actually smaller than the face on the All Engines Go Push Along Duck. So if I were to redo this thing in the future, I'd probably swap this with like a face from a Tommy duck. But for now, and I probably will keep this giant face on forever, as I don't want to spend ridiculous money on a Tommy duck just to cut off the face, like I did for this thing. So luckily, this wooden railway duck will stay normal and not end up as a dead toy. But anyway, back to this duck. The story keeps going further with the fact that not only was the Push Along Duck hard to find, so I had to call on Nate himself, Nate Steamati, to help me get the duck to make this model, as well as the face for this duck, as he sent me 2 motorized ducks, so I could put the face onto this one with one of them. But For the wheels, I also had an absolute nightmare finding the character I needed for these darn wheels. And that was the 2026 Diesel re-release. If you remember in the previous video when I looked at this Diesel right here with the adjusted rods, that is why I needed to get a second one, because I wanted to make a Diesel that actually sort of matched the rest of the 80th diecast by painting his rods silver. And I just so happened to find gold at a Kohl's. Dun da da da! I found another 2026 Diesel, and it was basically a third times the charm luck thing, as throughout the past 2 weeks at the time of this recording, because this is being recorded on April 19th, last Thursday, I went to like a Kohl's in like, up in the cities, and then, well, close to the cities, and I was looking for Diesel. And I couldn't find him, but I did find the 80th Mattel Thomas plush. Then, just the other day, literally just yesterday at the time of recording this, April 18th, I went to 2 separate Kohl's and found not only this Diesel on basically like the second Kohl's we went to that day, but on the first Kohl's we went to, I found this! A All Engines Go Salty from Case A. So here's technically 2 bonus customs for this video. Here we have the third duck that I purchased in November around the same time as this Winston here. But with the proper black wheels, as he appeared in All Engines Go for a total of, say it with me now, 5 seconds. What a waste! I will never get over why his darn toy had yellow wheels instead of black wheels, and why his promo was weird and not like his show counterpart. But anyway, I made the proper Sodor Symphony duck with the black wheels from the Salty, and in that same time frame, I made the prototype render of All Engines Go Salty out of this by giving him the yellow wheels from the All Engines Go Duck Push Along, and I painted his handrails silver with a silver Sharpie. And these 2 were probably the most simplest customs I've ever done in recent times. But anyway, with all that sidetrack out of the way and backstory, this custom took way too long to make. It took the time span of over a year of what I thought would have been easy models to find. Because originally, this duck was going to be very different, as you could tell, because it was originally going to have a wooden railway face. It was also originally going to have the wheels from the original 2019 Diesel release. Because I started planning this model out before the 80th toys were even revealed. So it was gonna be the All Engines Go duck with the original 2019 Diesel wheels and a wooden railway face and no side rods. But then obviously the 80th stuff gets revealed, and I'm like, okay, it's gonna be wooden railway face, original 2019 wheels, and maybe rods. Actually, no. It wasn't like that until the 2019 Diesel got confirmed. The moment the re-releases got confirmed, I'm like, okay, I'm adding the new wheels to this and giving this thing rods. And the new face. But yeah, that was the wild and crazy backstory of this custom that took literally over a year to finish, from start of initial design plan to finalized custom. I don't think there's ever going to be another custom in my life that's going to have this crazy of a backstory to it. But yeah, that was the crazy backstory of Duck. And now let's take a closer look at his little bonus things. Of course, we mentioned his giant face. I've also painted his buffers here with Sharpie paint pen. He's obviously got the new wheels from the 2026 Diesel re-release, and the wheels of Duck are currently on that Diesel. He's got side rods from Thomas, which I actually did the best job of getting the rods on to duck, and I will put some pictures up as I actually managed to keep like the little pegs where the rods sit and how the chassis fits into the running board. This was like the best attempt I did at getting the rods into place, as I did a much nicer job cutting the rods to get it to fit. And the last little update I did was I painted his back buffer beam, as the original Push Along duck just has a gray buffer beam with no paint on it. But yeah, that was the CGI Push Along duck. And I'd say he turned out really, really good. And that was your good look at the 4 CGI customs I made, plus the 2 bonus All Engines Go customs. So, with that mega custom spotlight out of the way, what do you say we take all 5 of these engines down to the layout and give them a good running session, shall we? And that was the running session of the 4 new and updated CGI Push Along 80th engines that should have happened. As well as the 2 bonus customs, that being Prototype All Engines Go Salty and Sodor Sings Together Accurate Duck. But, I bet the question on your minds now is, will these 4 customs appear in Thomas's Trackmaster Adventures? The answer is yes. This Gordon was already planned to replace the original Trackmaster Push Along Gordon when I did the original custom. Same with the Edward. Duck will be used whenever, like, basically all these push ones, these 3 here, will be used whenever, say, a character is hooked up to something in the front and they need to, like, push or pull something behind them. As for Winston, as you probably saw in the remake, this Winston will be completely replacing the motorized version of Winston that came with the Henry and Winston 3-pack. As this Winston is a lot more in scale with both the original motorized and the 80th anniversary motorized. So this Winston right here will become the permanent Winston in my series from now on. And you won't be seeing the ginormous Trackmaster Winston anymore. But anyway, this is HunterTube saying thanks for watching, bye for now, and I will see you in the next video, whatever it will be. Well, that's a wrap on 80th anniversary customs. I really hope there's not another custom that's been sitting in the workshop for about a year or... Oh no. Oh no. Well, I guess it's time to go face hunting.